Something is happening in the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition community, and I believe it's affecting really the entirety of the role-playing game community, and I think it's been happening for a while now, and I've been noticing it more and more over the past year, especially more than really ever before. Something is changing what it means to be a role player. I think that maybe Dungeons & Dragons 5e is sort of killing the role-playing game. Now, before you freak out and start leaving me a bunch of hateful comments, I want to make a couple of things really clear. One, I do not believe that Wizards of the Coast is killing the game as far as the player base goes. In fact, it's quite obvious to me that droves and droves of new players are coming to the game every day. I get comments on my videos all the time to the tune of, wow, I wish I had people that would teach me how to play, or I can't wait to play my first game and I want to play a wizard, etc., etc. So in fact, I think it's the opposite. I think that Wizards of the Coast has totally revitalized the game and brought in a ton of new players into the hobby. Also, I think the arrow is still very strongly pointing up. I don't see a decline in popularity anytime in the near future. And two, this is not a rant video throwing rocks at D&D 5e for ruining the game. In fact, I'm not advocating that these changes are either good or bad, but rather that they're happening. And I kind of wanted to have a conversation with you guys as to what all of this means for the future of role-playing games. What I'm saying is that there has been a dramatic shift in what people expect out of a role-playing game as ever seen before. And that's the game. To literally say the game portion of role-playing game is slowly kind of being killed off and emphasized less and less at the table. And again, to reiterate, I'm not certain if this is good or bad for the game, or even certain that it really has to be either all good or all bad. But rather, I find it interesting and just want to talk about it with you guys. In addition to the new player comments, one comment I see constantly is sort of this snooty comment from people that, well, you're just too focused on role-playing, R-O-L-L, and you're not role-playing, R-O-L-E. And I've seen these comments on my videos, on Reddit, on Twitter, and on Facebook groups, and they always kind of strike me as smug and arrogant, and I kind of liken them to the "your fun is wrong" crowd. Now, these people have been around for decades in every edition of the game. They're not new, but rather they seem to either be growing or maybe just getting more annoying and louder. And it always baffles me when I see people dog on others enjoying the mechanics of a game in combat as much as they enjoy role-playing. I personally love combat in a role-playing game, and I also love role-playing out a character in a funny new voice, trying to see if I can create a cool dynamic character that evolves over time and try to get everyone at the table to laugh at their shenanigans in a tavern. And as a dungeon master, I love creating encounters for my players to freak out and feel accomplished when they actually beat them. And I love creating a rich, complex history for a magic item in my world and killer motivations for my NPCs and villains to covet it, and on and on and on. I mean, I'd say that I'm probably pretty evenly balanced between the role-playing in role-playing game and the game in role-playing game. I really do enjoy both. And to people who crap all over combat and tells others who enjoy it that they should just play a video game, I'd say that you don't understand why people still enjoy combat. I don't enjoy combat because I just want to kill things and get loot. I enjoy it because I can approach it however I want. Do I want to poison someone? Cool, I can do that. Do I want to hire out guards to help me eliminate a monster? I can do that. Do I want to cut a chandelier to drop on an opponent? Sure. Soak a net in oil and set it ablaze? Absolutely. I can do anything, and that's what I like. To me personally, combat in video games is just checkers. But combat in Dungeons & Dragons is chess, and that's why I enjoy it so much. Also, fat loot is awesome, and, killing things is a lot of fun. And secondly, I tell people who say that combat shouldn't be a big part of a good role-playing game experience to open their player handbooks. How many pages of the 316 pages in there are not dedicated to rules for handling combat, not counting the index, table of contents, and foreword? I mean, the entire book is just a bunch of rules for what happens if you decide to fight things. So combat has always been a big part of the game in its history, from literally running through Castle Greyhawk to surviving the Tomb of Horrors. So I think it's really interesting to see the rapid evolution of the game since 5th edition has released, and to think about maybe what implications that has for new games coming out from other RPG companies, or even for the eventual Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. And before I can talk about what this change might mean for the inevitable Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, I should probably talk about what things have actually led to the more recent shift, because I don't think that it necessarily all has to do with D&D 5e. But first, it's sponsor time, because I got bills. I mean, the kids' karate classes are like $125 a month, which is crazy to me, but whatever. I mean, I love them and stuff, so you know. Today's video is brought to you by Q Workshop. These guys make the coolest freaking dice on the planet, and they just finished up their massively successful Kickstarter last month as they launched a whole new series of wickedly cool dice sets. But I spoke to Q Workshop, and they asked me if they could hook all of you guys up with your very own Taking 20 coupon code and discount in their shop, to which I naturally said, yes, please, absolutely, that's amazing. So down in the description box below, you'll find a link that'll take you to all of the dice that they make, and these guys make brand new designs for a ton of games like Starfinder, Call of Cthulhu, Numenera, Shadowrun, Pathfinder, and a ton more. So when you guys use this link, you're going to get a massive 20% off of your order, which, to be frank, is cool as hell of them to do. But the discount code will expire at the end of November. Christmas is right around the corner, and we all know that dice make for the absolute best stocking stuffers / gift to your gaming group. But guys, don't settle for another plain blue-green swirl. Get your friends something cool that they'll go nuts over and use for years. So thanks Q Workshop for hooking us up with the amazing discount and for being a part of the Taking 20 team. There can be no doubt that 5th edition lowered the emphasis of the importance of combat and dungeon delving. I mean, it's all right there. No negative HP, anyone can find and disable traps, simplification of 2-weapon fighting, proficiency bonuses which allow bards to wield a sword as well as a fighter, and a trickster rogue to be as dangerous with firebolt as a druid or wizard, attacks of opportunity, grappling, flanking, disarming, knocking an opponent prone, etc., have all either been removed or dumbed down to the point that they barely have an effect on combat. And skills certainly aren't even close to what they used to be with really specialized builds. I mean, it is what it is, a simplified version of D&D, almost diet D&D, if you will. And again, that's not to say that those changes are bad or good overall, because if we're purely talking numbers, they speak for themselves. D&D and tabletop role-playing games have never been more popular, and a big part of that is how easy the game is to learn now. And the effect from those changes have diminished the importance of tactical combat greatly. But Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition isn't solely the reason behind the shift in what it means to play a tabletop role-playing game. It's also fair to mention the birth and success of Critical Role. Now, I like Critical Role, even though I only ever watched, I think, the first 19 episodes of their first season, so I neither hate them, nor am I really a massive fanboy. I just like them and what they continue to do for the hobby. But their impact on the game and the community is absolutely astounding to me, so kudos to those guys. I mean, before Critical Role, we had very few instances of D&D being played, and it was really all comedy. It was Acquisitions Incorporated still playing 4th edition, and the entire 2 hours once a year was really about those guys getting together to show off their geekdom to their fans, and to see who could outdo everyone else by coming up with the best quip of the night. Was it fun? Absolutely. Was it popular? Sure, but only within the already established gaming community. I mean, did it bring droves and droves of new players? Not even close. Not like Critical Role has. And so when I look at Crit Role, it's interesting to me to see that they have obtained a reach to 100% new players. I mean, because they grew so fast on Twitch, Twitch's platform naturally boosted their reach because more people would browse to find something to watch, and they would see 10,000 plus people watching a Dungeons & Dragons stream. They would check it out, and then their very, very first experience into the world of D&D wasn't a few buddies at a comic shop helping them roll up a new barbarian because they were a person short that night, but rather their first foray into the world of role-playing was professional voice actors getting into their characters and focusing on the story aspects, not number crunching. As they say, you only get one first impression, and I think for a lot of those people, that first impression really stuck. And as they started their own games, that was the only experience that they had to draw from going in. That was what their expectation was. That's what they were signing up for. So the question is, who had the bigger impact on shifting away from the game aspect of role-playing game, the new 5th edition rule set, or live play shows focused on story? I'm not sure, but I will say that if I was Paizo, I would be building one hell of a war chest to do anything I can to get the 3rd season of Critical Role when it starts playing to be Pathfinder 2nd edition. I mean, hell, I'd give the cast 5% if I had to. I'd rather have 95% of $2 million than 100% of $1 million. So if I could find any way to get Matt Mercer and gang on my game without making less money, I would certainly do whatever it took to make that happen. And I mean, if I was Wizards of the Coast, I'd be doing the same thing and trying to lock those guys up on D&D for forever. So with that in mind, what does all of this mean for the future of tabletop role-playing games? Are we going to experience a cycle that takes the game back to its roots in dungeon delving and character creation? I'm not actually sure that we will. I think that streamers and live play shows aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And as long as those folks are around, I think we'll continue to see new games come out that will be much closer to what we have with 5th edition. After all, as long as those streams are focused on story, and as long as they continue to be the first gateway into role-playing games for brand new players coming to the game for the first time, I think we'll continue along this path of the game in role-playing games, the focus on character builds, hunting, loot, tactical combat will all continue to be really an afterthought for gaming groups. Maybe it's for the better, maybe it's not. Though I do still find it interesting that monster manuals and new player options seem to kind of get the base far more excited than really anything else that comes out. But for the first time as I've entered into my early 30s, I realize that there isn't just a generational gap between me and older players who cut their teeth on 1st edition or 2nd edition, but there is now clearly a generational gap between those of us who still hold a fondness for 3rd edition as our home system and new players coming into the game today. Our expectations for what a game of Dungeons and Dragons looks like are totally different from teenagers and young 20-somethings. All I can hope for is that the game and hobby will continue to grow overall, and I'm happy to say that I think that it will. And lots of combat, lots of role-playing, whatever the new additions look like, I'm sure I'll be happy to learn them as I take my son through his first few dungeons. So I really want to know what you guys think. Will we experience a cycle back to more combat-heavy systems, or is this new wave of role-playing, above all else, here to stay? Also, who had the bigger impact on the game? Critical Role or Wizards of the Coast? I want to give a sincere thank you to all of the amazing patrons who help support this channel and help me continue to make videos. Without you guys, simply put, it's going to go away. It wouldn't continue to happen. And so for that, I am incredibly grateful. If you guys like this video, you want to support more content like this, welcomeadventures.com is a great way to support the channel, even for $1 or $2 a month, and you'll pick up some extra rewards for yourself while doing so, so be sure to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.